A little later than normal, but we are back with another episode of Goalhorns and Fight Songs. Had to make a little bit of a pivot from what our original plan was, but we still have a guest and our favorite guest of the podcast joining us tonight in Trevor Gorsuch.
Our favorite
What's going on,
multiple
guys?
appearing guest. We don't want to alienate the guys
No.
who've only appeared once, but Trevor's our go-to guy.
He is. We can just message him, hey, what do you got going on?
Let's
long as
be
not in
clear. You guys
season.
just need me because I talk so much. You're like perfect filler episode. We can't get our guy. Let's get the chatty goalie going. Let's get them going.
That's definitely a benefit. But
It helps.
It does help.
yeah, and it does help that we talk about stuff off the show that we can always bring you on to talk about on the show, which is what we wanted to do tonight.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember exactly when we were talking about it, but I think it was right as guys were signing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were discussing the difference between kind of how college sports for hockey work as opposed to the other three major sports, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, America's top four sports, both college and pros. Throw soccer in, we know soccer is the sport of everyone else. But if you look at, you guys seem to be the most integrated with the pro ranks, even before you guys kind of get to college. Does that feel right or accurate?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. The way it was explained to me when I was going through the whole college process and everything and with juniors was colleges don't want to, this is going to sound bad, waste money on an 18-year-old kid. Because hockey is such an expensive sport with the ice, with the gear, sticks, everything, the travel, teams didn't want to bring in younger, underdeveloped kids, like the true freshmen. Whereas, every other sport, there is no junior leagues to go to. But that's the whole point of hockey is there's a few odd exceptions, the Colt Conrads of the world, or, a few of those guys, like just to bring up Western, that are just true freshmen that come in at 17, 18 years old, and they're just unbelievable, and they're super talented, and they get away with it, and they're genetically gifted. Great. But, think about yourselves, like at 18, you're not fully developed. You're not ready to play a physically demanding schedule like you're just using the NCHC. You play anywhere between 35 to, whatever it is, 38 games in a regular season, and not even including playoffs. And then you're practicing every day of the week, Monday to Friday, Monday to Thursday. And then you've got games usually Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. And then it's just, you're doing school as well. So it was told to me that, they wanted more mature, physically, mentally people. And I think that really lends itself to be helpful to adapt to that next level and be closer to like a pro level than it is like a college football player going to college, pro football. And because the college football game is so different from the pro football game, that they're not as beefed up, strong, big, and whatever. The game is so different that you don't prepare for it the same. Whereas, most college hockey prepares you to play the pro hockey game, or at least most times you get an idea of what it's going to be like to play pro hockey.
I even meant you guys come in with advisors or things like that, but you can also participate in development camps or run by these pro teams. You don't see, I think maybe football players, they have their own brand of development camps. Basketball players have camps and stuff, but they're not you're not wearing a Red Wings sweater on your summer vacation or a Pistons sweater on your summer vacation from the college basketball team, but you're gearing up in Red Wings stuff, practicing with Pavel Datsyuk and seeing what those guys do when you're still, that freshman, sophomore, 21, 22-year-old college kid. And you may be drafted to that team, or that team just might be looking for a guy.
Yeah, and again, that's part of the maturity, and that part of you go away and they don't want these younger kids, because I never had the fortune of going to any of those camps, but some of my friends did, like Corey Schooneman, but he came in and he was, 21, 20 or 21 when he came into college with me freshman year. And, he was already very physically developed, like much more developed than, somebody else that was 18 years old was mentally, strength wise, everything. And that really lends itself to let you to jump right into college and show those pro teams what your skills are, what your abilities are, and basically makes it look like, hey, no, this guy would be somebody we want to see and come to our development camp.
And I think the interesting thing, hockey compared to other sports, is you see kids that, as far as colleges, they can't technically get their written commitment, but they're verbally signing kids at 14 years old versus um, just a kid. He committed to University of Minnesota for basketball as a junior. You're getting kids that are freshmen, eighth graders, freshmen, committing to these colleges, and then they go play juniors versus basketball. Okay, I'm a junior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, here we go, and now I have one more year of high school basketball, and all of a sudden I'm going to be going to play in the Big Ten. I'm going to go play in the ACC. It's a completely different level. So I think that hockey, they get kids at a young age and they develop them from there because, like you said, they don't want to waste the money, so they need to recognize that talent. And if they don't see that talent develop in the juniors, then a kid from our rival high school, he ended up playing D3 after 4 D1 colleges said, you might not be what we're looking for.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. I mean, you get scouted, you looked at, and when you're for anywhere between 14 to 16 years old, and then they start to talk to you. Hey, we'd love to see you go play junior hockey. It's going to be a little bit more intense than playing your local AAA or Central States or Tier 1. I don't even know what they are anymore. But like the youth hockey, premier youth hockey, whatever, they want you to go play junior hockey because now you're starting to get a taste of away from home. Now you're not with mommy and daddy at home. Now you're going to have to figure out and budget money and do stuff on your own and become a little bit more of an adult, which helps you mature as a person. And then once you go to college, now you really are on your own. Most times you're not just in your back door, or where I moved away when I was 17 years old. I moved to middle of nowhere in Nebraska in the middle of my senior year, and then went to college at Kalamazoo. So I was both of those times I was anywhere between 8 and 10 hours away from my family, and that just makes you adapt and grow as a person to get used to fending for yourself and growing up as an adult. And that's what these colleges and pro teams really want to see is who are you as a person when you're not just on the ice? How do you present yourself when you're away from the rink?
Go ahead.
I kind of have a follow-up to that question then. With the kids committing to these colleges so early and then going to juniors and everything, the pressure versus to perform so they can get these scholarships versus growing independently, how much pressure do you think is on these kids earlier versus I mean, I think it would probably help them once they get to these big name schools versus an 18-year-old freshman dealing with pressure. But at the same time, what do you think as far as hurting versus helping them in this is my dream, I have to go get it, and putting too much pressure on themselves?
It's weird because I was never in that situation where I had that much pressure put on me. Like I put a ton of pressure on myself. As we talked about before, my dad was a pro athlete. He played pro tennis. And he never made it to my level of hockey. So like he couldn't put the pressure on me to coach me or whatever, but he knew what it would take to be a pro. And he would always ask me, is this what you want? Because if this is what you want, we need to go. We need to push. You need to push yourself. You need to work out harder. You need to watch your diet. You need to whatever it was. But God, I feel bad for some of these kids nowadays because so many of these parents are so controlling, so pressure driven of you got to do this because you got to get a scholarship to go play. And it's like they're 9. Let them have fun. If you do this, you're going to burn them out and they'll never want to play the game again, you know? And even for me, I mean, I turned 29 this summer. I still have as much fun in the game as I did when I was 7, when I first strapped on the pads. And people ask me all the time, well, how much longer are you thinking you want to play? How much longer are you wanting to play pro? And I'm like, I'll play pro till it's not fun anymore. Once it's not fun, or I physically can't get into shape, or I physically can't meet the demands of a season, then it's time for me to get out of the game, or at least get out of the pro, and then I can go play beer league. But today's with all these pressures and these kids, yeah, I mean, if you're hopefully you have a good support system like your family that helps kind of alleviate that pressure, like, hey, yeah, let's just use North Dakota as, committed you at 14. You've got that in their back. You've got that in your back pocket that you're going to go to North Dakota. Now you just got to develop. Now you just got to play. They already like you, so just keep growing. But if you have those parents who are like, you got to be the best player on your team every game. If you're not scoring 5 goals a game like Connor Bedard, then you're not going to make it. Like, you're just putting too much pressure to where they'll want to just not play anymore. They'll just want to quit. And, that was something I had to learn on myself by putting too much pressure on myself at times, that I would hinder my performance by being so, oh God, I don't play for a great team in juniors. My team doesn't score a whole lot. I got to make every single save. No, I can't make every single save every night. That's never going to happen. If I made every single save every night, I'd be in the NHL and I'd be a Bethesda winner year in, year out, because I'd have a 0 goals against and 1,000 save percentage. And however many games I played shutouts. Nobody's ever done it. Nobody ever will. But to continually have that pressure con you, it takes a special person. And again, that's where I kind of come back to the mentality, the maturity. At a certain point, you've kind of grown and you're like, okay, I know how to handle the pressure. I know how to handle, contain, and perform under pressure. Whereas most kids don't know how to handle and perform under pressure, and they crumble. So that's why, you'll sometimes have these colleges commit kids at 15, 16 years old, and they'll verbally commit them, and then they don't talk to them until they're like 18 years old. They leave them alone until they're 18, 19 years old or whatever. And then they're like, hey, come in to work out with us in the summer. Come to North Dakota because you're committed here. We're not going to tell, like, we're not sure when we want you to come in and actually come to college, but you're committed to come to North Dakota. And we want you to come in. We want you to work out with the guys. We want you to see how we do things here, this, that, whatever. And you kind of get acclimated into that. Oh, okay, these are my expectations. This is what it is. And then you kind of can see the path in front of you that you want to take. And that's the way to best take that pressure and how to drive yourself in that direction.
And I think the other thing, like we were talking about, is like just how much there's yes, guys are committing super young to schools, but there's also pro teams who are committing super early to dudes, kids, and like drafting them when they're still, because there's that window where you can be drafted. Mm-hmm. If you're a North American player, so US, Canada, I think it's a little bit younger. I think Europe, they think they get a couple extra years of draft eligibility, or it's shifted.
Yeah, it's something like that.
In one way.
I think it's like, isn't it like 18?
I think it's 18 to the year of the draft in which you turn 21.
Yeah.
If you're North American.
18 to 21 is like North America.
But I think it goes to like 22 or 23 if you're Europe or
somewhere
Asia.
From Europe. Yeah.
And so like you got teams, and we saw it this last year where a team traded a player in college, traded his rights to another team for a current NHL player. And it's like you're going your college career like, okay, I'm signed to Anaheim. Oh, well, yeah, you're not drafted by Anaheim anymore, or you were drafted by Anaheim, but you're actually now, after you graduate, going to be a Minnesota Wild player.
Yeah, it was Brock Faber LA Kings had him. We got him this summer for Kevin Fiala and I don't know whoever else we got in that trade.
Mm-hmm.
Finishes up with the Gophers in the national championship game. It kind of like Brock Besser. As soon as it's done, he's playing with the Wild. He was one of our best defensemen in the playoffs, or like a Cale Makar. He was did a great article. He was devastated that he got traded. He's like, why didn't the Kings want me? But then he talked with Billy G, and then he talked with his parents, and like you were saying, the support system. His dad was like, think about how much they wanted you. They gave you Kevin Fiala, or they gave them Kevin Fiala for you.
And that like I've always had mixed reactions. It's when people talk about getting traded and they're like, man, I can't believe I got traded. And it's like, okay, well, if you look at what, like Kenny, you said, you got traded for Kevin Fiala and you were still in college. If they look at that, they're looking at, okay, we think you are going to be as good, if not better, than Kevin Fiala. That's what we see for you. That's pretty fucking good. If they think you're better than Kevin Fiala. Okay, but I've never been traded per se, but it was like I've been released and then picked up by a team like right away and whatever, and it's just been like, okay, so whatever the circumstances, whether it was too many goalies or whatever and this that and it, but if a team is already wanting bad enough, there's a bright side to that. If you choose to look at the negative of that, like, okay, again, I was never drafted, but if you're drafted, that's just a name on a sheet. There's no guarantee you're ever actually going to play for that team. You could be a first overall pick and you then go to college and you get hurt or have a couple down years and you're like, yeah, we don't want to bring you up to the NHL right away. We want you to go to the A. Maybe you struggle in the A, then you go down to the coast, and then you got to try and fight your way back up, and you never make it to the NHL. But you get traded, and that maybe that organization didn't have you as high on their depth chart as you thought you were. If you think, well, I'm for sure the best player that I got drafted out of in that class. If they're like, we think this guy's better, or we think we got a little bit more, you get traded to a new team that immediately puts you higher on the depth chart. That's a win. And it's hard to do. And that's where, like I said, sometimes the maturity of it is you look at it and you gotta be like, okay, it's a new opportunity, new door opening, new chance to go. And that's hard to do, and that's easier, like I said, easier said than done. But it works out for some people like that, where you're upset for a moment, but then you realize, okay, this is a good thing.
So I think that's the one Florida Toronto game on.
Oh, nice. I think that's the one thing that makes hockey unique, though, about versus any of the other sports, really, is because baseball, you can get drafted, but they don't, at least that I'm aware of, they don't really trade your rights to anyone else until you sign in the pro ranks and are playing, rookie ball, single A.
From what I know is, you can. So in baseball, from what I remember, is you can be drafted. You don't have to sign with that team, and you can then be drafted again the following year if you so choose. So like your rights aren't guaranteed to anybody. Whereas hockey, you're drafted. I think you can be drafted like in the USHL too. Like they have their drafts and at the junior levels.
Yeah, the USHL.
You have the USHL draft. There's the NA draft. There's the OHL draft.
So I mean, you're. I think by the time you get to college, you're kind of used to that system. But it's just the uniqueness of being drafted by a team, and then they go, okay, well, we have the right to sign you first for this period of time. I think is what it is, right? Like for 3 or 4 years.
I'm trying to remember what guy it was in baseball. You were talking about it. It might have been Max Scherzer was drafted by somebody, and he was like, nope, no shot. And he didn't sign with them and then got redrafted the next year by somebody else. But yeah, hockey, it's like you have 3 years, I believe, to get to sign after you've been drafted.
3 or 4, because Wade stayed for 4 years. I mean, granted, he had the injury thing, but he signed his entry deal after his senior year.
Yeah, I think injuries can kind of tweak that a little bit, but I thought at least it was 3 years. It could be 4 years now.
I
I'm
think
not
it's
100% sure.
I think it's 3 up until a certain point because someone was talking about it with um, Faber, and I had looked it up. But it is a different thing because basketball and football, you get drafted and then you're in the pros. They don't have they don't have rights to you your freshman year, and so I think that part can be, again, going back to that mental toughness of a kid. Sweet, I got drafted by the Boston Bruins,
Hmm.
and then you can be traded like Brock Faber, traded in the middle of your college career, and that that would mess with you. It's like, okay, am I not doing enough at this college level? So you have to be that type of player that, again, looks at it in the positive light.
Yeah, and
Too easy.
again, it's to look at it in that sense of, well, am I not doing enough? That's almost, and that's a natural human instinct, and I guarantee I would do the exact same thing. And I'm not saying I wouldn't, but it takes someone, like I'm lucky I have my dad, and Faber had, his dad, and Billy G. But to sit there and go, okay, look, the team needed things now.
Mm-hmm.
You're still in your college season. It's not like you were going like, hey, I'm ready to come join the LA Kings right now. I'll leave school.
Yeah, not that
They
goalie from
needed
Minnesota.
something. I don't even want to talk about him. I watched him get lit down in Orlando this year, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, you left Minnesota
At
for this.
Christmas. Got
Yeah, at Christmas.
I think played one game with the Hurricanes, and then they
One
went,
show game. One show
this
game
might have
where he
been a
played
mistake.
okay. Then went to the A and played okay. And then this past year spent pretty much the entire year in the coast with Florida. And anytime I saw him in net, or at least I saw the score sheet, I didn't see a whole lot of wins, and I saw a lot of goals. So I'm like, but again, you sit there and you got to look at it and go, you know, this team had needs in the moment. If that team is wanting to throw me up there on the board as a trade piece and get something pretty good, that means I was a good enough incentive to bring a good player to this team, the team that drafted me. And it has nothing to do with me and like what I'm personally bringing to the table or what I've done in college or how many points I'm putting up or whatever. But if that team, that NHL team has specific needs that it needs in the moment, and you're part of a trade to another NHL team, that means you had enough value that other NHL team went, yeah, we want that kid, and we'll take whatever other person you send us for this guy. That's how it's hard to do, but like I said, that's how you have to end up looking at it to get mentally into it.
Yeah, as long as you don't find out. Can't remember. I think it was a Hall of Fame pitcher. They found out that they had gotten traded for cash considerations down the road 10, 15 years after their career. So what were those cash considerations? It was $1.
That was Chris
They got
Draper.
traded for.
Oh, that was Draper.
Yeah.
Oh, Draper knew right away.
Yeah.
Draper got traded for $1. And when he won the Stanley Cup with the Red Wings, he walked into the owner's office and slapped a $1 bill on his table and said, "Here's your fucking dollar back." But no, what's baseball? There was Lou Brock was actually traded from the Cubs to the Cardinals. Cubs and Cardinals did a trade, which is just wild. And I forget who the guy that was traded for Lou Brock, but Lou Brock wasn't really anything big at the time. He was just coming up and this, that, whatever. And they traded, I want to say it was a guy that was like a 2-time gold gloving shortstop, maybe at the time. It was before Ozzie Smith. But it was something like that. And everybody's like, really? We're going to trade this guy? And he went on to do like nothing for the rest of his career. And Lou Brock went on to be Hall of Famer and everything as a Cardinal. I mean, Lou Brock is one of 2 or 3 guys that hit a home run to dead center of the old Polo Grounds, which was like 500 something feet to dead center. And everybody was like, "Oh, this guy's got no power," and it's like, he's got power,
a little bit.
just a little bit. But, and that's sometimes what can happen is, you sit there and you get, you're like, oh, how did I get traded for this scrub? And then you go there with a terrible attitude and whatever, and you shit the bed. But if you go in there with the proper attitude, you can make good things happen.
Ooh, while we're on baseball, I did want to also point out that college kids do have a chance to play summer ball. They
Yes,
play
I
4
did know
teams.
that.
Like Kalamazoo has the Growlers who won the Northwoods League last year, beating Duluth. Actually, the Minnesota Duluth team.
Yeah,
so.
Duluth Huskies. That's a fun league. It's a fun league to go watch. Sometimes it looks like a snowball fight out there, even with some of the best college players, but it's still fun. $5, get a hot dog.
Yeah, I mean, and it's different because I'm trying to remember. Do they play with wood bats in the summer league, or do they still use?
Yeah.
Yes. So you're sitting there, and it's like they've been using the BB core bats, which still have a little bit more pop than the wood bat. So then you got the difference of the pitcher. The ball is a little different. They change it from the college ball to the pro ball. And if you've never seen a college ball to a pro ball, it's a big difference. The seams are pulled even tighter, so the seams are less raised, so they're slicker. So you got pitchers that are trying to figure out how to pitch with a slicker ball. Then you've got hitters that are trying to square up the smaller sweet spot on the wood bat. So they're entertaining games, but it can also be kind of a cluster.
It's kind of like who is that? What manager was it that was ejected and came back in the disguise in the major leagues? I can't remember who it was. I think it was the Mets manager.
Oh,
I think it was Bobby Valentine.
It was Bobby Valentine. I was sitting there. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Bobby Valentine.
I was at a Huskies game one year, and the manager got ejected, and he sits next to his wife, who I happen to be sitting across the aisle from. What are you gonna do? He's like, I don't know. I don't care. I got kicked out. Not like I'm gonna do anything, but I was like, you just changed and are sitting watching the game. What are you, Bobby Valentine?
Yeah, he's probably sitting there texting his bench coach, "Hey, let's pinch hit here."
I'm pretty sure he was texting. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I mean, baseball and hockey, you have the different layers to the pros. There's the single A through triple A in baseball. There's the S through the AHL in hockey, and then the N. The NHL is where you want to be. But so you kind of shake out where you can, right? Like, I mean, or like, how does it work with? Did you have an advisor who's kind of like you bounce things off of, like, okay, so this team's kind of who's been brought your name up, talking to coaches. These guys have been at practices or at the games. They're from
in college, or
yeah.
I never had an advisor in college. I had a very bad experience with an advisor in juniors. He had told me that there was a trade opportunity for me because I was originally drafted in the USHL by Omaha. I went to their training camp at 16, turning 17 or whatever, my senior year. Because being a July birthday, I'm one of those late birthdays. And so I was 16, turned 17. And so by the time the season was started, I would have been 17. And they were like, "Hey, we really like you, but we have our 2 goalies, so we don't need a goalie. Like, go back, play AAA one more year, and come in ready to play for us next year." I was like, "Okay." So I go home and I start the season great. And then they were like, "Hey, there's a trade to trade you to Tri-City, but the Tri-City wants you to come right away." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I talked to my advisor. My advisor said it was a great opportunity for me to play. I would have been, I would have played. They said I would play anywhere between 15 to 20 games out of like 60 in the USHL. I was like, that's pretty good. And I talked to some of the other, Blues players that I've known over the years in St. Louis. I was like, "Hey, is this a good idea?" And, to my knowledge, I thought, and I had said something to my AAA coach that, like, "Hey, I'm thinking I'm leaving for juniors." And I had thought that had been cleared between my agent and him. And then I left. Well, I came to find out he never told my AAA coach that I was leaving.
Jesus.
And it was just like I was gone. And Yeah, so that burned a couple bridges that then I had to slowly rebuild over the years in St. Louis with some people. Um, but so throughout college, I didn't have an advisor. There was no, hey, this team's looking at me, this team's this. No, just doing my own thing. Once I was at the end of my senior year, though, my childhood goalie coach gave me the name of my first agent, and he was a good guy, and he helped me get to some teams early on. But he and I ended up having not necessarily falling out, but he was more of a NHL, AHL kind of agent. He had some guys in the coast, but they were like, near the end of their career. They had played most of their career in the A or the NHL. So it was hard with how much turnover there is in the ECHL and everything. It was hard to get a hold of him. It was like, hey, this is what's going on. What should I be doing? Should we be looking for a trade? And I would go like a month without hearing from him. And I would just have like a whole one-sided conversation. So I eventually was like, hey, you are a great agent, and I know you are. It's just not working out right now with where you're at and where I'm at in my career. If we work together later in my career, as like, let's say I get, opportunities to play higher, I would love to work with you again. But right now I need to go with someone that's more in tune with the ECHL, AHL, like those two areas. And since then, I've had a different agent, and he's been great. He's helped me find opportunities and helped me get to spots that have, been good, really good for me.
Would you say, I mean, just from observations and stuff, because we for the pod about like the difference between college hockey and pro hockey. Like a lot of college players are full tilt for 60 minutes, but it's not so much once they get to the pro. Like it's a different feel in the game. Like yes, they say it's faster, but like you were kind of saying that like it's faster, but in a different way than what people expect it to be faster. I think.
Yeah, it's more methodical. It's more systematic, whereas in college it's so much more run and gun. Like, I call it Wild West games. Like when you watch college, it's odd man rush, 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 and then it's we're gonna hold it in the zone for a couple minutes, and then we'll turn it over at the blue line. And next thing you know, it's an odd man rush going the other direction. And a lot of the pro games are okay. Let's systematically. Okay, we don't have a great break. We're not looking great on the break in. Let's bring it back. Let's regroup. Let's get a good break in. Don't and let's go in and let's get possession and let's hold zone time. And it's faster in the sense of like the tape to tape passes. The shots are more accurate. Things like that. But it's I find in the pro game, because it's going to sound bad. I don't want to say guys are gliding, but it's almost like they're not on every stride. You're not necessarily getting 100% out of every single guy on every stride during an opportunity. And you'll have a guy that's kind of just like cruising, and next thing you know, they get the puck, or there's an opportunity for you to get the puck, and they're shot out of a cannon and they're gone. And you're like, well, where did that burst of speed come from? And you know, I don't remember if I told this story, but one of my first pro games, it's the best way I could describe the difference as a goalie watching the game from pro to college. We guy won the faceoff. My team lost the faceoff. The guy on the half wall on my blocker side got the puck. He walks across the top of the circle. He's right in the middle of the top of the circle. He has a lane to shoot. I'm ready for a shot. And he just keeps walking and walking and walking, basically straight across the top of the circle, all the way to the other top of the circle, down the half wall, still has not shot the puck, and then gets to like almost the goal line and rims it around to the point because he just didn't like his shot angle and all the way across. And I was like, in college, that would have been a shot at least 9 different times. Like you would have shot from there, you would have shot from there, you would have shot from there. Like, and I'm just sitting there like, why is it? And I'm just shuffling with him. I'm sticking with him right in the middle, and like, why isn't this guy shooting the puck? And I couldn't understand it. And guys were like, well, that's because they're looking for they're looking for guys to be in front. They're looking for screens. They're looking for tips. They're looking for any kind of movement or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I was like, college, it was just get the puck on the net and crash the net and whack away for rebounds. Like, this is different. And that was one of the biggest things I noticed, is that it's much more calculated on, let's not just look shot rebound, which that's still there in pro game, you know, but it's a lot more like, how can I get the best scoring opportunity I can get, you know? And if it does turn out to be a rebound, great. Like, the goalie makes a great save, but it causes a rebound, okay. But if they're waiting for that perfect opportunity to shoot, and almost sometimes to a fault, you know, I've said it a few different times to my teammates, like, over the years, I'm like, guys, just shoot the fucking puck. Like, shoot it a second before you think you'd have to. Like, when you're kind of like, oh, should I? When I was like, if you go, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shoot it. Like, shoot it. Create something, you know? Force
I
the
think
goalie
that
to make a save.
I think that works out perfectly too, because you have I went to game 4 and everybody around me, shoot the puck, shoot the puck.
Oh,
Well, finally, one guy behind me that I was telling my friend who I went with, he goes, there's nobody in front. It's not going to do anything. Just sending one from the blue line. And people don't understand that. And
no.
I didn't play past squirts. Like, I went
Yeah.
to a Pee Wee hockey camp, but I understand, especially talking with you, talking with my brother, there has to be something in front. And yeah, when it gets down to the last minute
Oh,
of the game,
yeah.
then
When it gets down and you're
then
down by a goal, you don't care.
Start
You're
firing
throwing anything
away.
at the net.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, again, goalies, especially nowadays, and I'm taking myself completely out of it, I'm just saying in general, goalies nowadays are too good to just see a straight shot and just get beat by a straight shot. Is it going to happen every once in a while? Yes. But there has to be some level of a threat. Doesn't necessarily even have to be a screen. Doesn't necessarily have to be a guy right in front. It could be a guy lingering just off into the soft side, like soft area, just off to the side, where goalies really got to think about, like, ooh, okay, I really got to make sure I control this rebound. My perfect example of that, of, you know, when there's the opportunity to shoot and when there wasn't the opportunity to shoot, in Game 7 of the Panthers Bruins, there was a shot that the Panthers threw on net earlier on Swayman, and there was nobody in front, and Swayman just literally, like, sucked it into his chest and held it, and there was no problem. Now, it could be just to get a whistle, whatever. But if you look at the goal that gave Boston the lead, the guy walks over the blue line, takes a slap shot, and Bobrovsky just pops a rebound out to the far side right onto a guy's tape who one times it. Now, do I have some systematic things, like, if I was to do that myself, that I know I would get nitpicked about? 100% from goalie to goalie if I was to try and nitpick that. But still, that's creating an opportunity, and there's some level of a threat that makes sense to shoot the puck. But most of the time, straight shots just don't work. You're just, goalies are too good, too fast, and, you know, too skilled to get beat by just a straight, clean sightline shot.
Yeah, I mean, when you listen to a lot of games, it's like, how many times have you heard, like, oh, he saw that the whole way in, like, you were doing absolutely nothing to disguise that, or
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just, and a lot of times there's guys who, we saw it in the was it Game 4 or Game 7 of Seattle as or Colorado? I hate when people say one city and then one team name, but I just did it. Seattle, Colorado, when what's his name? 29. McKinnon shot the puck right as the dude just happened to be crossing the goalie.
That was the most beautiful screen.
Caught him right in the pant leg.
Did that one count or no?
Yeah, because it hit. Called off. No, it was the one that went right off, like, the last quarter of an inch of Rantanen's pants, and just over his shoulder.
I wasn't.
Yeah, that was the one that did count.
The other one,
because the other one was called off for offsides.
The other one that got called off for offsides. I couldn't remember, but
he got the one stolen from him, and then the one waved off for offsides. But the one
that's perfect.
Stolen.
Like, that was the most perfect screen.
And it was literally just a guy just kind of cruising in the zone, just
That's
skating
all
past
it
the
takes.
goalie.
That's all it takes. All it takes is a split second for your eyes to come off the puck. I mean, I have a picture somewhere on my phone, and it's like the reaction time it takes to react to a puck, like a shot from within this area. You have to have a reaction time within that spot, and it's like it cruises all the way out. And sit there, and then when you watch games, and if you have that mindset, you're like, wow, it is really hard to be a goalie. And that's just with nothing. That would just be like a straight shot, like I could see it all the way, and I have a split second to react to something. Now you add in not just bodies, you add in sticks, you add in your own teammate trying to throw his hand in the way, and it could tip off his thumb and flutter over and skitter in, or it kicks off the bottom of his skate and bounces up and does crazy things. And instead of being able to control a rebound, it hits me and skitters off right to somebody's tape and taps it in. But yeah, that's where, you know, the pro game is similar to a college game, is that they're college, you get just shots and you get traffic to the net and you just bang away at rebounds and you just hack and hack and hack.
Yeah, I think that make, well, I guess Rant and Engel, what Wes and I though, we were messaging back and forth. We're like, yeah, even if that didn't hit Ranton's leg, like touch it, that was a goal no matter.
That was a goal no matter what.
He had that thing labeled, and
it was almost as it was as beautiful as the overtime goal of Florida and Boston. Same thing.
Yep.
Not Kachuk, but yeah, it was Kachuk.
Yeah.
Kachuk just cruised just past Swayman, and it went back just the way he went. So Kachuk's going this way, and the puck goes right there off his ass. And as a goalie, you're trained to, you always want to look the short side on a play like that. You never want to give up a goal on the short side. If you get beat on the far side, that's a great shot. It beat you all the way to the far side of the net, but you get beat short side, that means you were cheating to over there. And so, you know, on those kind of plays on a screen like that, on that overtime winner against Swayman, and I felt so bad for him because, I mean, he played a great game. Kachuk's coming through, and he's looking short side, and he's cruising across from short side to the middle. So Swayman has no choice but to try and hold that like angle and sight line as long as he can. And then he does what every goalie is taught from his young age, is you butterfly and you make yourself as big as you can to hope it hits you. And it went right over his shoulder, bar down, and that's your season.
Yeah,
I'm getting distracted again. I got Seattle, Dallas on now. These games have been so freaking. The playoffs have been so freaking good this year.
I'm going to be honest. I have not watched a ton of them. I've watched a little bit, but I'm probably going to start watching a little bit more now that the couple teams are in there that I want to.
No, there's
Florida
less teams
won,
playing.
4-2.
Yeah,
let's go. Oh, anything to make Leafs fans miserable. That's what I love.
Oh, I loved the fact that Colorado and Boston lost, just because I love the chaos. But the chaos that Boston losing, I love that. And then Colorado just being the Wild fan, I loved it. But
then also Colorado being the Stanley Cup champions and them, you know, being as hot shit as they thought they were, kind of thing, and to watch them lose to Seattle and their former goaltender Grubauer, who they didn't want to pay.
He played insane.
That's what I mean.
So well.
He was so good in Game 7.
So you got a guy that you didn't want to pay, and then he's playing against you, and he basically sticks it to you like, hey, remember how you didn't want to pay me? Guess what?
Yeah, that was so much fun to watch. And I'm happy that they were saying, oh, well, it'd be sweet if we could play Seattle. I'm like, have you seen Seattle play this year? They're actually a pretty good team. And then we got Dallas, and apparently didn't want to win a faceoff or wanted to let them go. He was 40-some% on the power play.
Yeah, you guys' PK was not great.
Hey, it happens.
Well, I think
This is
Foligno
true.
slept with the refs' wives or something like that because
He was getting all the terrible calls.
he was getting all the terrible. Hopefully it was worth it, Marcus. Hopefully it was worth it.
Where would you say? I was thinking about this earlier. Is the AHL the most talently diverse league of the pro leagues? Because if you look at like the NHL, we know the NHL is the top tier. Like I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
But a lot of those guys, they're similar level, right? They're all in that top, say, 5% if we're being or like extremely liberal about it. To say the top 5% of all players make the NHL, it's really like way lower than that. But let's just say the top 5. The AHL, you get guys from the NHL who have had NHL time, or maybe they have an injury, or they're just not feeling it so much. You've got guys who maybe may not be quite NHL players and they fit in really good at the AHL. You get guys who are some play really, really well at the E and they want to get a chance. Or they're trying to move up and they'll spend some time at the AHL.
I would probably say yes, because like it's very similar to AAA baseball, where it's the same kind of thing. You'll got guys that have played couple hundred Major League Baseball games, but they're in AAA because they got traded or whatever to a different team, and that team is currently stacked in their position, kind of thing, and they signed them as depth. Yeah, I would say of the diversity of the skill, I would say probably the AHL is the most diverse in the skill. That you could have a guy that just got called up from the coast who's, maybe not as skilled, but he's just a grinder, hard worker, goes to the dirty areas and gets rewarded. You could have the guy that comes right out of college that's just young, not fully experienced to the pro game yet, and, is getting his feet wet. And then you got, like you said, guys that have been grinding for a while, made it to the A, and they're just right on the cusp of the NHL. And you got the NHL guys that come down that are either a little bit past their prime or, like you said, rehabbing an injury. So yeah, I would say the A is probably the most diverse in skill and overall, because like you said, in the NHL, virtually everybody that's in the NHL is in that top 2% of hockey. I mean, I can't think of a single guy in the NHL that I'm like, yeah, no, I've played with a guy better than him, or myself. Like, I'm never going to sit there and be like, yeah, no, I think I could take his spot. Probably not. Give me a little bit, or give me some opportunity to play in a couple of A games or whatever, and I build that rapport, but maybe. But at this very moment, there's no. But yeah, I would for sure say the A is probably the most diverse of the pro leagues.
I think we even saw it when Wes and I were when we made the trip up to Chicago after Nashville. It was Texas playing Chicago. The goalie for the Texas Stars was Anton Khudobin.
Yeah,
and he's just there because Dallas hosed him out of his spot. they did. He's a great goalie.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the funniest thing.
I'm looking.
Yeah, you got Anton Khudobin going against
I don't
Chicago. Would that have been Chekrin or whatever his name is? The guy that scored the goal for the Chicago Wolves, the goalie.
It might have been.
He had like an unbelievable 7 games or whatever with the Hurricanes earlier in the year.
There were so many things going on in that game that I was questioning.
Yeah, there was a lot that
there was the flamethrower entrances, the melting the slot on the the home team's gonna skate in.
I know. That was my one AHL call up I've had was to the Chicago Wolves, and it was hot. I will tell you. On the ice, that is so hot. The flamethrower.
Oh yeah, we were right at the top. Like, we were kind of center. We were kind of center ice-ish, but we were right at the railing on the top. And every time that thing would go, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Dude, it was like, I was sweating at one point because like from doing it, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm leaking.
We were looking at it and we're like, how does this help your team? You've just made that entire part of the ice soft as shit, and you're gonna try shooting from there, and it's like the highest scoring opportunities come from that area, and you've just melted it all and turned it into nothing. You were just
it's all for the show.
You were just helping that away goalie for the first period.
And unfortunately, you know, that's part of the minor league stuff. Is like it is so much selling the product.
Yeah.
You know, selling the extra jerseys and the whatever, and you wear all the crazy.
Paint the ice 4 times, 17 times a season.
I'm so glad. Like I'm so glad I'm gone from there.
It's
I couldn't do that anymore. The 1 year was enough for me.
We hear it all the time with AAA, the St. Paul Saints, just all the gimmicks and whatever that they do. And I'm like, it's fine if you do like. When we were there, it was Harry Potter night, which that's fine if you want to do stuff in the stands, but the gimmicks on the ice.
Well, then they like auction off all of those jerseys. Also, can you please stop being so damn popular everywhere you go, Trevor? I'm
sorry. I'm just a fan favorite everywhere I go.
You really are, because I was like, I wonder if I could steal one of Trevor's jerseys from somewhere he didn't play that. No, they're all like $500. I'm like, God damn it, I'm cheap. I'm poor.
I mean, did you see the what was it? They had me do like kind of their version, the hockey version of the Between Two Ferns.
I absolutely enjoyed that, and I sent it to Michael.
Oh man! So we filmed 2 of those back to back. They haven't posted the second one yet. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. They were like, "We think you're gonna." They were like, "We think you're gonna be perfect for this little bit we're gonna do." And I was like, "What is it?" They're like, "Have you ever seen Zach Galifianakis's Between Two Ferns?" I was like, "Yes." And they were like, "Yeah, so we're thinking of doing that." And I was like, "Am I gonna be Zach Galifianakis or am I gonna be the guest?" They're like, "No, you're gonna be the host." I was like, "Let's go." I was like, give me the script. Let's go.
You could really go either way, though, because there's some guests on there who just obliterate him, and it's even funnier.
Oh, yeah, and that's the best part. Yeah. So, and that was the fun part is like, you know, they gave me the script of like, hey, kind of say these things, but they were like, feel free to do whatever you want. I was like, done.
You know, when a tornado comes through, you got to stop, drop, and roll. Wait, tornado.
Yeah, stop, drop, and roll. Like everyone's like, tornado? What? I thought we were doing fires. Why are we talking tornadoes?
Whatever. We're only in tornado alley.
I like the very beginning of we're rolling.
I like the welcome back to the first episode.
Yeah, welcome back to the first episode. Yeah.
It reminds me more of when Ryan Kessler did Between Two Zambonis.
Yes.
Like that was more that feel. I think my favorite one of his was Dallas happened to be walking in, and he might have been with Bieksa on that one, and they just start chirping the stars as they're walking by.
See, I tried to pitch to do. I don't know how I'd film it, but try to do. Have you ever seen that interview where Ryan Reynolds interviews himself or whatever? And he's just roasting himself.
I think so.
And I was like, I literally sent that to him and I was like, is there any way that we could do this, but I do it to myself? And they were like, maybe. I was like, I don't know how I'd film it, but
you just have to film it to where you do all the questions or whatever, and then you do all of and then just cut it together. Like, it's a whole lot of post work. Would be the worst part about it. That's why we don't make videos, because I don't have time to do post work.
Oh, there it is.
But
I'm not quite sure how I feel about that comment.
What comment?
There it is.
Oh, well, yeah, I can move my neck now. I don't know if you could hear all the cracking.
Oh, yeah, I heard it.
Oh, yeah, I heard it.
We're going to slip into that ASMR chiropractic level there with that.
Hold on. This just goes to show you how many joints I've broken and hurt over the years.
Nah, I can pop like that too. My one ankle pops every time I go down the stairs, but that's the ankle that I did break. My teammate broke, I should say.
Oh yeah, that's right. You remember you telling me that.
That's why I don't play fair. Why I fell out of liking football. But anyone you're specifically, or what teams are you gonna try and follow now that it's down to a fewer teams?
I would love to see Seattle. I would love to see Seattle go far. I just think that'd be cool. You know, similar to Vegas getting there in their first year, even though it's not the first year. Oh, but seeing how Seattle turned it around from being one of the worst teams in the league last year to being, if they make it all the way to the cup or whatever, I think that'd be really cool. I think it's easier for me to list teams that I would like to see lose.
You can go whichever way you want. I don't care.
Let's see. I want Toronto to lose. I want Dallas to lose.
Well, they're up 2-1 right now.
I know. In the Edmonton, Vegas, I want to see McDavid go far. McDavid's got to go far. I want to see McDavid go far. Carolina and the Devils. See, I just did the thing you hate. That's why I did it. Between the Hurricanes and New Jersey, I just can't decide who I want to go there with. I like both those teams, so that's a toss-up.
Oh, Seattle just tied it 2-2.
Let's go.
Nice. I think
so.
Out of that one, for New Jersey, I just like Eric Howla. I mean, he's bounced around. He was kind of a fan favorite here. A little upset when we lost him to Vegas, and then he's had a really good year in New Jersey. But I think this is his 6th different team he's made the playoffs with.
Yeah.
And now he's one of their more premier scorers. So I'd like to see him go far.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think he's.
I always just look at the goalies most times, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, Schmid or whatever, is that the guy's name that took over for New Jersey that stole them the series over New Rangers?
Yeah, the 22-year-old.
Yeah, whoever the hell that kid is, but he played unbelievable.
Just scored again. It's 3-2 now.
And then you got Freddie Anderson for Carolina. You got Skinner versus whatever carousel of goalies Vegas is throwing out there, because they've got Brossoit, Aiden Hill, Logan Thompson, and Jonathan Quick all available.
They followed Dallas's lead about getting like all the 5 different goalies.
All the former teams, all the goalies from the former teams that are still left.
Then you got Toronto is Samsonov versus Bob.
And then you got
Grubauer versus
Ottinger.
Ooh, I do like Ottinger though. I still like Seattle.
Ottinger played well, but we were joking as we were walking out of Game 4. Some guy said, "If he keeps playing like this, we might have to revoke his Minnesotan citizenship."
I forgot he's from Minnesota.
Which, to me, that's just really cool for him that he could win a series in the building that I don't think they won state, but he played state in that building, and good for him.
Yeah.
I don't think he's on the playoff roster.
Who?
Cotter for Vegas.
Yeah. Hasn't he been playing or no?
I didn't see him in much of game 1, but I also didn't watch a whole lot of the first series because it was all at freaking 10:30 at night, and my ass has got to be up at 6:30 now.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know.
Hours out.
He had a pretty decent year with Vegas.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to say
Vegas sat freaking Phil Kessel.
Goals, didn't he?
I couldn't tell you. I know Vegas sat Phil Kessel for a game, and everybody was up in arms about that.
Yeah, but that doesn't really matter because it doesn't affect his.
Right.
He already has the record. He probably just told them, "Guys, I want a couple cheeseburgers and a couple hot dogs. Let me set this one out."
Yeah, Cotter had 13 goals, 5 assists.
That's not terrible.
No, that's not terrible at all.
He'd be the one reason I'd be pulling for Vegas right now.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he played less than like a quarter of a season at Western.
That's Andy. Another Another true gem pick from Andy Murray.
But I think he's the only guy with Western ties that's still in the playoffs, at least for NHL teams. I think there's a lot of guys with North Dakota ties in this Seattle Dallas series. Somewhere's along the ways.
I know.
Yeah, I think you're right with the Western guys.
A lot more in the AHL.
Yeah.
You got Frank playing with Hershey. They're taking
Hershey,
on
Bussy with Providence.
Yeah, I think they just got booted.
Providence did?
I think so. Weren't they playing?
Oh, I have no clue.
The Checkers?
If they played the Checkers, then
because Checkers are playing Hershey now, and that's McAllister and Frank from Western in that series.
Yeah.
Sasson signed with Abbotsford, or he signed with Vancouver, but he's playing with Abbotsford. I think Poland's playing with Colorado.
Colorado Eagles.
I think they might have just got eliminated too, though. I don't remember who's left in the second round for the AHL, because they were weird too, because they sit like 4 teams get a bye or something, so it's hard to figure out. Oh wait, no, Providence is playing Hartford. That's right. But Brandon was playing. I don't know how many times Brandon has played, because he was bouncing between Boston and Providence for most of the first round, because he was like the emergency backup for like the first 3 games of.
Yeah, because Allmark had tweaked his knee or whatever.
Yeah.
And Swayman was sick, so they had Bussy up as the e-bug.
Who's left? Hershey has Ethan. Checkers have McAllister. I don't think there's anyone from Western on Toronto anymore.
No, not that I know of.
Don't think Utica. Yeah, this is how we do things. We just throw random shit at the wall and click on the internet and see what's going down.
Yeah, this is typical.
Colt's still playing with Vegas's AHL team.
Henderson.
Yeah. But
I wasn't sure if they made the playoffs or not.
I don't think they did. I do not recognize anybody on this one. For Utica. I know Texas has either Texas or Dallas has a few North Dakota guys for sure.
And they have at least one Bulldog.
Ryan Fancy playing for the Comets. Fort Wayne scoring a goalie goal in the E this year.
Ooh.
And I think he had a fight.
Yeah, he also did have a fight. So I was going to ask you that, Trevor. Are we going to ever see a Trevor Gorsuch goalie fight?
That's always up for debate. I don't know. We'll see. In my younger years, I probably would have said, 100% one of these days, but I'm just not as angry as I used to be when I'm playing. I used to be much more angry.
I think that's so much more work too.
Oh, so much more work.
Well, you also have to be willing to get punched in the face yourself.
You know who's the greatest at goalie fights though? Even though he lost quite a few of them, was Patrick Waugh. If he got that big trapper like wrapped around the back of your head and was just throwing hands, but he would always leave his glove on.
I used to do boxing for like 5 or 6 years, so getting punched in the face doesn't faze me. It's more just the equipment. You gotta. So the thing I learned was you gotta, in preparation of what almost would have been my first and only goalie fight in juniors, was as you're taking off your gloves, you got to make sure you unstrap your arm strap of your dominant hand, your throwing hand, so that when they grab you, you can slide your arm out from the actual like full goalie arm, slide it outside your chest protector, and then you just have your arm free that there's nothing that they can grab onto.
That's a smart idea. I wonder if Fleury did that when he tried to fight Bennington earlier this year. I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
if you ever heard
They
that.
should have let them go.
I saw the video of it.
They should have just let him go.
Bennington just annoys the hell out of me.
Did you hear the mic'd up from Fleury?
No.
Well, Fleury was telling the linesman, he's like, "Oh, come on, just let us go. The crowd will love it. We got to fire up the crowd." That's all. He doesn't care. He's like, "The crowd's gonna love this. Let's just let us go. Come on."
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a few people ask me if I ever got into a fight. That's like one of the first questions I always get asked whenever I start working with like young goalies. Have you ever gotten into a goalie fight? Have you ever scored a goal? And I'm like, no, I've never gotten into a fight. I've hit the post twice in juniors.
I was gonna say, I doubt even if you had the opportunity. Has there been a goalie goal in college? Not that you would have had an opportunity, because I know freaking Murray would have like tore into you, even if you'd hit the net.
Which is weird because Murray loved me to play, wanted all of his goalies to play the puck, but like, yeah, he would have lost it if I had even tried.
Well, there was one. There was one. Who was it? I don't remember who it was. It might have been your senior year. The kid scored an empty net goal, like from his knees, from the face-off dot, and like you could tell Murray was pissed that he even attempted it, and it was just hella lucky that it had gone in. But
I mean, vaguely remember this. Yeah.
It was either like right at the face-off dot or like right at the blue line, and really, literally, I think he was just trying to make a play up the ice because he got like creamed as soon as he let go of the puck, and he was just trying to get it out, and it just so happened to go in the empty net. And as all the dudes were celebrating the empty net goal, because it meant we were most likely going to win the game, you could just tell that he was like seething. Like, why would you even try that? Like, I wasn't even trying it.
Yeah, he had some weird idiosyncrasies that like still to this day make no sense to me.
I really hope we can get Frischweiler on here soon. He never responded to my second text message. I might hit him up again. But like the dynamic shift from Andy Murray to him was like so. The team, granted, Andy Murray had really good teams at Western. Okay, like I don't think we can really say that he didn't. He kind of got lucky his first year winning the CCHA championship with whatever Blashill had brought in and the work that First did and Faka did, building that team with Jeff, because I think Jeff was the only one who left the Wings after his first season.
Yeah,
they still did a lot with that second year team, but he handled the transition to the NCHC pretty well. He had a couple competitive teams, got guys to the next level, got guys to the pros here and there, pissed off a couple guys here and there too that still made it to the pros. But where the hell was I going with this? No, but like if you look at like the dynamic of that team, he would always harp on like score the first goal. The team who scores first wins 80% of games or something. Like he would say at every press conference. He had a team that one year, I think it might have been his last year, did not have a single comeback victory. And then like
that doesn't shock me.
And like I think the first year with Pat Frischweiler, they had like 4. And it wasn't even. And granted, his last year was also the pod year where Brandon got hurt. So let's kind of be wishy-washy with maybe his last year at Western and the effect that had. But like he had a lot of teams where if they gave up the first goal, it was almost done by the second period. We were like, well, all right, guess we're done.
Well, it was from playing with him. It was so.
And then
it was always so negative. There was never real any positives. There was no like, yeah, hey, we got scored on. They scored a good goal, blah, blah, blah. But, hey, we did a lot of good things. Things that we just keep doing the little things. We keep doing those small things, and it's going to work out for us. We're going to get those goals, and we're going to come back in this game. We're going to win the game. It was never that. It was if we went down, it was, this is what you're doing wrong. This is why we got to change these things. You guys are playing terrible. And it's like, okay, where's the positive? Where's the pickup? Where's the making me feel like, where's this getting us to play?
You got to give them the constructive sandwich.
And it was also just, and from everything I talked to with some of the guys that were still there and with First's time, um, Andy would burn teams out.
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
we'd sit there and we'd have off weekends where we didn't have games, and we're at Lawson Arena at 7 o'clock at night on Friday playing an inter squad game, and then we'd turn right around and on Saturday be playing another inter squad game at 10 a.m. and it'd be full contact. Full contact play against your own team. Go as hard as you can, because these guys over here, there are some guys that aren't in the lineup and they want to be in the lineup. So now you got those guys that haven't played like the first 15 games, then now they're grinding. They're trying to be the guy that gets in the lineup, not caring whether or not they kind of hit somebody a little too hard that's maybe got a little sore shoulder or whatever. No, they don't care. They're like, I want to be in the lineup. And you do that and you grind that hard from June 1st. It's no wonder that almost all of our teams that, at least the 4 years I was there and the teams of before me, by playoff time, had nothing left in the tank. You're going since June 1st, and when's playoffs? Playoffs start. College
March?
Playoffs start what? March.
Early March. Yeah.
So let's just do June, July, June,
8 months.
July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. You've gone for almost 10 straight months. 9-10 months.
Yeah.
You're going every single day, except for your weekends sometimes. And then you're going as hard as you can every single day.
I mean, I definitely noticed it as a fan. Like, there would be, like, even your senior year, like, you guys played that from the moment that you make that save in North Dakota. I'm always going to bring that up because I really feel like that was the spark that, one, gave you the net, and two, it did whatever it did for the team, because from that moment on, you guys played 10 straight games, lights out. I think it was from there until after the trip to Vegas. I think you finally lost maybe the week, like 2 weeks after the start of the second half.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was like your peak. And then it was when, like, but the time you guys lost is usually when you would see North Dakota, Minnesota Duluth. They would start picking their games up headed into the playoffs, and that's the reason that they were always in Minnesota, like them, Denver,
because they always got because their coaching staff and everything understood the importance of time off, rest, trust your players. Not every college athlete is going to be a moron and go out and drink for 3 straight days. There were some of us that were smart, that were like, okay, maybe I'll go out and booze hard one night, but then, take it easy the other 2 nights and rest and recover and, feel better about myself.
There was definitely a couple times the last few years when you knew when the team was out of town and certain guys were not making the trip. And checking IDs at a particular bar. I know who's there and who's not. But no, it just seemed like there was such a huge difference, because, like I said, there was Andy Murray always pressed in the conference like, oh, we got the goal first and we went on to win the game, or we gave up that first goal and then we just couldn't find our game after that. It's like, there's still 60 minutes a game and you gave up however many time left after the first goal is given up. And it was just like the team just felt like, well, we didn't score first. We know we're going to hear about this for the next hour.
Exactly. It was, and even if we tied up the game, it was somehow still, we gave up the first goal. They have all the momentum. It's like, they scored the first, we scored the second. Shouldn't we have the momentum? Shouldn't we be talking about the positive things we've done?
Yeah.
But it was very rarely were there positives.
But I think there was literally a year where Western did not have a single comeback win. And it was like, I don't know if that's the personality that you've now instilled, that if you give up the first one, you're losing the game or what. But it was the first season with Frischweiler, and even it became right at the end of the year became the phrase. Like, the biggest takeaway from Frischweiler's first year as a head coach was, we score 4 goals. And I think it was going into the playoffs against Nebraska Omaha. They were down in the second game, And I think he was going into the third period. Ferschweiler, I guess, told the teams, like, don't worry about it. We score 4. And I think they scored 3 in the third period to tie the game. And they win a face-off in the Omaha zone, and Drew Warhead scores the game-winning goal to send Western back to Minneapolis for, like, the first time in, like, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that would have been first time since my sophomore year.
Yeah.
Sophomore year was the last time, at least it was the only time I got to go back. I was in Minnesota, in Minneapolis for the NCHC playoffs.
And then we went on to beat North Dakota to make the first finals that I think Western has ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like that difference of like, okay, we gave up 1. We're going to continue to play our game, keep calm, and we're not going to change anything because we had a 4 goals a game average.
Yep.
And I think earlier in that year, they were playing Colgate, and they were down like 6-1, rattled off 5 straight. It was Ronnie got the first hat trick of the season, and they ended up winning in overtime like 7-6 or something stupid after being down for like most of the game.
I think
yeah, I tweeted about that game. I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not watching this game anymore. I've had enough. Or I was done listening to it, and then I'm watching Twitter. It's like goal Broncos. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this game? Who is doing this?
And again, that's the difference in a personality of coaching staff and whatever. Very similar, honestly, to the coach I had this past year when I was in the SB with Evansville. He was very similar to kind of Andy, where if we were down, there wasn't a whole lot of constructive criticism to pump us back up to get us back out there. It was more just like, what are we doing? How are we down to this team? Blah, blah, blah. And it was just, you were almost defeated in the locker room because you're just like, okay, we already know we're down. Like, give us something to help us. You're a coach. Like, give us some insight. Give us some things. Like, give us a little, just even if it's just a little pat on the ass to tell us, hey, we're doing a lot of good things in the offense, but it's going to click. And then, I went to a couple other teams where we'd go down and they're like, we got this. We got 40 minutes left. Doesn't matter if we win it in 40, if we win it in 47, or if we go all the way to a shootout. We can take it all the way there and win then. It counts 2 points all the same. And it's like, and you feel, but you're like, yeah, don't have to win this in the first 5 minutes of this next period. We don't have to try and tie it up. We got 40 full minutes to like tie this game up, batten down the hatches in the D zone, and take care of the stuff in the offensive zone. You're like, wow, I feel so much better and so much more confident.
I think there's one more thing I wanted to ask you about, and then we can jump out of here because we've been going for almost an hour and a half with the hiccup we had earlier. But do you think, does the transfer portal make because there was an article that came out that said like the transfer portal makes the big teams, it widens the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Do you think it's true, or does it actually close the gap? Because you look at programs like Alaska, who came back after a couple-year hiatus. You look at teams like Lindenwood, who are developing a Division I program. You've got who's that other one in the Dakotas?
Augustana, who's going to be a new program. They had one transfer come in, and then even St. Thomas being now going into their 3rd year as a Division I program.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and those teams seem to benefit them, like might get more benefit out of the transfer portal as opposed to, we saw North Dakota kind of take a hit this year being so dependent on that transfer portal and not having the teams that they've built up from within their own. Or Michigan's going to get draft pick players and they're going to get a lot of guys that they recruit, but some of them have hit the portal. Or Minnesota State this year, because they lost their coach, they're seeing almost a fire sale of guys who have jumped into the portal, either chasing the coach to Wisconsin or just trying to get to another program.
See, I don't really know a whole lot about the portal. When I was at Western, it wasn't the same rules as it is now.
Yeah, you still had to sit out. You
still had to sit out a full season.
You had to get the okay from like 8 different people if someone said no.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it was, you know, in that respect, it was you'd look at it much more of like, oh, you're just quitting. Like you can't hack it, so you're going to a new team. Um, but with this now, I'm I don't really know if it widens the gap or lessens the gap. If it, from what I've seen, I stay in touch with some people that know and that are pretty close to the Lindenwood program. They aren't utilizing a whole lot of the transfer portal. They're just doing their own recruiting, building up, and they're doing a lot of the recruiting by going, "Hey, we're playing top teams. Maybe there's a couple transfer guys that get in, but like that's how they're recruiting top players is like are trying to is like, hey, once we continue to show that we're growing and they had a for being a first year team, they didn't do terrible. Um, and so by saying like, hey, we're going to play these top 10 teams almost every week, okay, that's going to definitely help recruiting because that's going to get you noticed if you're playing against those teams. Um, but I could also see the argument for widening the gap. Like you got schools like Michigan and so much else that have so much more scholarship money that they could throw around. Say you got a guy that wants to transfer to a different school and he's a good enough player and there's a couple teams that are, possibly interested in it. And one team's going to offer him 3/4 of a scholarship, but then Michigan that's got more money, more scholarship money than whatever that they can offer him a full scholarship. I don't know.
Isn't there? I know for football, there's like a limit. Isn't there the same limit? Like what
There
percentage
is a
of
limit, but
players could
again, it's a
be?
limit of your how much like revenue your school has, kind of thing.
Isn't it a
So it's
numbers thing though? Like I think every football team can only have X amount of players on like full ride, and then X amount more of like
yeah, but
half
there's way
or
of getting
like
around
some.
it. There's ways of getting around it. I mean, my senior year, I technically it was weird. I was on a half scholarship to start the year. My senior year, I was on a half athletic scholarship, and then I had half of an academic scholarship because I had such good grades. And then at the halfway point, right after the Vegas tournament, we came back and Andy did this whole big thing of saying that they've bumped me up to a full athletic scholarship. And I basically randomly one day, this is going to be, I'm not, fuck it. I'm out of college. I don't have to pay it back. I randomly one day just got a big old hit to my bank, or not hit, a drop in my bank account of, hey, here's your scholarship money. Because it wasn't going towards school anymore because I still had my academic scholarship and I had my partial, like, so I still had the half academic and I had the half athletic to start with. So my full year was paid for. And basically, that second half of athletic went right into my bank account that I could do whatever I wanted with it. And I was like, but that's what I don't know. I don't know how much that helps or hurts. I don't know a ton about the athletic portal anymore, the transfer portal.
Yeah,
Um,
and I mean that was
yeah,
kind of what we were going to talk about with Sam. So I hope we do get the opportunity to have that conversation next week because he's a guy who transferred in from Northeastern. So hopefully to get like
yeah, and
kind of some
again,
of
like
what he
I
went
could
through, and
see,
because I know like they have to
I could,
give up their scholarship when they enter the portal. So like
yes,
the kid from Colorado College who entered the portal ended up re-signing back with Colorado. Like he had to give up his scholarship. He might be able to like be awarded it back, or if they don't
hmm
assign it to someone else, we might like get the same scholarship type spot back. But they do have to decline that scholarship. So say like a team they enter the portal, nobody picks them up because I mean that's something that could happen. There's a no one's looking for what you have to offer other than the school you came from,
hmm
but they sign somebody else in the portal, and now you're kind of SOL, and maybe you're like, all right, well I'm gonna still finish my school. Well, now you're just a normal student who doesn't have a scholarship and doesn't play hockey. Maybe you can go play on the club team and pay to play for them.
yep.
Like I think that that's one of the scenarios where like guys, I don't know if they don't notice it or they don't populate it enough, but like there's like, and we're getting close to being done with the whole COVID year thing.
I think
I want to say this year's seniors are the
this
last
year,
year.
Yeah.
Because it was anybody who played the
Yes.
2020 season that ended right as like that got canceled, I think, is the one that they count. So if you played in the pod as a freshman, you don't get the extra year. If your freshman year was the one that ended early before the playoffs.
Yes. So it'd be anybody who was a sophomore during the pod has an extra year.
Yes.
Yes.
Which I think are this year's senior players.
Maybe. I don't remember. God, that whole conversation right there just made me feel old because I'm sitting there going, God, how long have I been out of college hockey?
Oh yeah. Bro, I've been out of Western as a student for 10 years, right?
God.
Granted, I spent 6 years there, so.
What am I at? 4, 5?
I've been out of high school for 16 years. Yeah.
Right. I've been out since 2012, so I'm at 11 years.
Yeah. I was supposed to graduate Western the year before you graduated college and stuck around a couple extra years. I regret nothing. I've made a pretty solid name for myself in the Kalamazoo area, I would say.
I'd say so.
But yeah, no, it's, I don't know, the portal's so interesting and the way everything's going down. But but yeah, that was the article that came out. There's all these concerns about like, oh, these big teams are getting better. But like again, like I said, like you look at North Dakota. North Dakota had a dog shit year this year. Like they barely scraped the sixth spot in the NCHC. Or were they 7?
I don't even remember.
Mike. No, they weren't 7. 7 was Colorado. Yeah, we were 2. And Colorado came in and swept us because we fucking suck at playing Colorado in Kalamazoo in the playoffs.
Yeah, it went.
So were they
Denver, Western, Omaha, St. Cloud, UMD.
So there were 6. Yeah, there was 6. Barely. And I mean, a lot of their team was transfer guys. Then another transfer goalie. This time it was from Michigan State. They had and they lost a bunch of dudes this year to the transfer portal. They lost like their entire D-corps. They pulled Miami's goalie in the transfer portal.
Western?
North Dakota.
No,
North Dakota got a person from got Ludwig from Miami.
Gotcha. I was like, because I know Western got
we got Cameron and Kirk last year out of the portal.
Yeah. This upcoming year, they got North Dakota took the very good Miami goalie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
But they lost
everyone from their defensive corps. Either they aged out or graduated, or they entered the transfer portal. Transferred out. Like I don't know what the hell Bradbury's doing in North Dakota, but that is not the same team that they were before. I mean, the last few years they go hard in that transfer portal. But I think Colorado did not have a single kid either enter or pull from the portal last year. They've already got a few this year. And Berko's freaking, dude, he's going to be one to watch again this year. See what he does his second year, because he was lights out last year on an okay Colorado team.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the kid who played for Team USA.
Gotcha.
All right, Wes.
Yep. We're gonna call it there. It's almost 11 o'clock. I got to go to bed. I got that old man lifestyle now.
No, that's okay. You got a kid.
Yeah, it's almost time for her to wake up and eat again. They do that. But no, hey, big thank you to Trevor. If he can't see it, but everyone who actually watches this on YouTube can see that his little picture thing says goaltender/podcast hero, because this episode would not have gone off without him this week. So love to have you on again when your playing career is over. If you want to come and hang out, or if you find a hockey game that you want to watch with us, we can do a watch along for a game or something.
I'm easy.
Your boys from Lindenwood play Western 4 times this year.
Do they?
Yeah, they got a series here and a series there. So,
wow.
So if you want to, maybe do a watch. Well, you might be playing because S and the EL play the same games as college hockey.
Pretty much.
But yeah, if you want to come on and chit chat about one of those games or that series, we can definitely do that at some point.
Yeah, I wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't be mad to do that.
But once again, big thank you to Trevor. Big thank you to Mike for hopping in from his real world duties to fuck around here for a little bit. All those normal nope, that's not Facebook. YouTube rules apply. There's a like, there's a subscribe down there. You can do those things. This is a different view, so nothing has been scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Hopefully by now you know where to find us on Twitter. On Gmail, it's just goalhornsandfightsongs@gmail.com. The Twitter handle does not have O's. I think it's goal is spelled out, but then it's HRNS.
I don't know.
It's at goalhorn Fightsong, GOALHRNFIGHTSNG. Listen, you can only put so many letters, okay? I was like, which ones don't really matter? The O's after goal don't really matter. So there's no O's after goal. And it's no and it's all together. I think that's it.
Like a goalie, no O's after goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they like the O's after goals. That means they didn't give up any.
Exactly.
We're the ones that are kind of rude to goalies because our whole thing is pucks on net, good things happen, like goal horns and fight songs. So until the next episode, we'll catch you later. Have a good one.